Alright, you guys, it's time to destroy some islands. Welcome back into another One Piece poll video today. We're going to be talking about Blackbeard potentially getting the ancient weapons. Pluton in Wano and Poseidon in Fishman Island. Will Blackbeard be able to acquire both now that he knows what they're all about? You know what I did. I threw up some polls to see what everybody had to say about both of these topics. So, getting right into it, the first poll right here: will Blackbeard acquire Pluton from Wano? There are only 3 options here today. The first one says yes, he will acquire Pluton. The second one says no, he won't be able to. Pretty much meaning that Momonosuke, Yamato, the Scabbards, the citizens of Wano, Sukiyaki will be there to stop him. And then, of course, for the last option, he simply doesn't care about Pluton. Caribou is like, hey, Blackbeard, let me tell you about the ancient weapons. And Blackbeard says, who cares about that, brother? Who needs an ancient weapon? Personally, I think he does care. You know, I did hold the exact same poll options for the second one right here. And just to rip off the Band-Aid, I think he does care about the ancient weapons. I do not think Oda would build up this plot point for so long. The plot point known as Caribou, have him learn about the ancient weapons for that not to be paid off in some way. I think he will send at least somebody to both of these islands to make sure that the information is good and maybe even acquire said ancient weapons. As far as Blackbeard going to Wano to get Pluton, I think this could very easily happen. If you're not new around the block, I'm sure you've heard theories that Blackbeard goes there and he uses the Guruguru no Mi to destroy Wano's walls, which is one of the main requirements when it comes to acquiring Pluton. You need to break down those walls and you need to release ancient Wano again. That is why Zunisha initially came to Wano, right? Zunisha was like, hey, Momonosuke, if you want, I can do that for you. But Momo said, nope, I do not want to open the borders yet. It is way too soon, so Zunisha simply went home. So now that Zunisha is off the board, how will they be able to break down the walls, if need be? Well, Blackbeard is a great option, right? We saw what Whitebeard was able to do at Marineford. Hell, we saw what he was able to do at God Valley and during the Elbaf flashback. So yes, I do think that Blackbeard could potentially break the walls of Wano and get Pluton if he knows where it's at. So as far as the deterrence in Wano, right? The Scabbards, Yamato, and the Samurai, yes, they are powerful. Don't want to undersell them. Those guys are tough cookies. But when faced against Blackbeard, the off-screen king, I don't think they'll be able to win. Especially since their greatest fighter, Yamato, does have a devil fruit. Momonosuke has a devil fruit. Blackbeard could simply boom, boom, negate the devil fruits, and he just wins right there. You know, obviously it wouldn't be that easy, but we saw what he was able to do to Bo Hancock, so maybe it is that easy. So yeah, Blackbeard going to Wano, taking Pluton, it would be akin to taking candy from a baby, in my opinion. So now, one question we do have to ask ourselves is, who does he send to Wano? Is it the whole kit and caboodle, aka his whole crew, or does he only send a select few people to Wano, like maybe himself, Shiryu, Van Augur, and etc.? I think that's interesting, right? Because here in a bit, we'll also get to Fishman Island, and it's like, yeah, like, does he send half of his crew to Wano and then the other half to Fishman Island? Or do they all just travel together? I think traveling together would be the best option, but I don't think it's realistic. Because as it stands, they have Garp in captivity. I think somebody at least needs to stay back and make sure Garp doesn't escape. I mean, hell, we saw what security was like for Kobe and Gecko Moria, right? He had, I think it was like 5 of his crewmates at Hachinosu. So yeah, I think he will split up his crew. Blackbeard has kind of his tendrils in every single pond. He's playing the game all at once. So I do think it will only be maybe 4 people who actually go to Wano and or Fishman Island. As far as who goes, I think it would be really cool if Blackbeard went himself. Of course, not only because the Guruguru no Mi might be pivotal when it comes to destroying Wano's walls, but because I think Blackbeard would also want to confirm that Caribou isn't spitting on his ass, right? That's one main thing to keep in mind. Caribou could very well be lying in Blackbeard's eyes. Oh, here comes this fanboy telling me about 2 ancient weapons that nobody else really knows about? Yeah, let me make sure he's not just BSing us. So I could definitely see Blackbeard going after the first weapon himself, maybe even the second, but we'll see about that one, right? After Blackbeard, I think it would be really cool to get Katarina Devon going to Wano as well. Maybe this is just me being a little bit racist, but Katarina Devon does have the mythical 9-tailed fox devil fruit. Brother, that's Japanese! So yeah, why not send her to Wano? Perhaps she could even turn into somebody that the Wano citizens know. Maybe she flexes her Saint Saturn powers there. Or hell, maybe she even cosplays as Garp, because he is, held captive at Hachinosu right now. She could show up and be like, hey, I'm Luffy's grandpa. That's my son's Jolly Roger. We need Pluton. Luffy needs your help. Which, sounds like a scam. I doubt anybody would fall for that. But that's on the board, right? It is within the realm of possibility. So aside from Devon and Blackbeard, another character I would love to see go to Wano, Shiryu of the Rain. I think that Shiryu of the Rain is Zoro's future opponent. Woo! Shocker, I know, right? Ever since Shiryu joined the crew, I think everybody collectively agreed that if Zoro were to fight somebody from the Blackbeard crew, it's probably Shiryu. And you might be saying, Sai, why is that? Why Shiryu of the Rain? It's because he has a sword. It is as simple as that. He is the one true swordsman on the crew. So people look at him and they're like, hey, that's Zoro's future matchup. And I agree. But right now, Shiryu's feats aren't exactly that phenomenal. We do have the Magellan hype from Impel Down, but aside from that, his performance against Garp wasn't all that spectacular. Yes, he stabbed Garp. I get it, guys, I get it. But it was a sneak attack, right? He went in to stab Kobe knowing that Garp would block it. Yeah, it's a Shiryu W, but it's not like a true and blue swordsman feat. So I do think it would be cool if Shiryu got more feats on the board. Like maybe he goes there and he beats the scabbards. Oh, that would be epic, right? He fights all 9 scabbards and Shiryu wipes them out. And then Blackbeard fights Yamato and wipes her out. That would do the Zoro Shiryu agenda so much good. So yes, I do want that. As far as a 4th character goes, I think Van Augur is just a staple. Because his Warp Orb Devil Fruit is just so easy to use, because it's so functionable, I could definitely see him using it to get to Wano. Like, hey guys, we gotta go up the waterfall? You know what? We don't have to. I'll just teleport us, boys. Boom! We're up there. Oh, Pluton's in the middle of the city? Boom! Teleported to the sea. I think Van Augur has an amazing devil fruit. So yes, bring him along. And I think that right there is your 4 go-to pirates. Of course, they could add more in. Like maybe Vasco Shot goes, maybe Vala Pizarro. Hell, maybe even San Juan Wolf. San Juan Wolf. Huh, that'd be interesting. Yeah, maybe if Pluton is like this massive, massive ship and Van Augur can't teleport it, San Juan Wolf could theoretically pick up the ship and bring it over. And there would be some irony in that as well, right? San Juan Wolf, a guy whose epithet is the Great Battleship, picks up a great battleship. I think that'd be perfect. So yeah, Blackbeard going to Wano, getting Pluton, I think is a slam dunk. And then of course, we have to keep in mind that Wano and Hachinosu are not exactly that far from each other. Like, they're both in the New World. They're both relatively close. So this is something Blackbeard could do on a random Saturday. Like, hey guys, I'm on a lunch break. Let's just go to Wano and take over real quick. I think that'd be fire. And then, of course, the future repercussions as well. Just imagine, he goes to Wano, whoops their asses. What happens next? Luffy has to go after this guy. Because Wano is Luffy's territory. That is a dispute between pirates. This plot point right here could finally set the stage for Luffy versus the Blackbeard pirates, and I am all for it. And of course, Blackbeard has his grandpa. So what better time to fight this group than potentially now? If not at Laugh Tale or during the final war. But you guys get what I mean, right? This is not bad whatsoever. So, getting into the poll results, 63% of people believe that Blackbeard will get Pluton. 29% say nope, he will not be able to. Momonosuke, Yamato, the Scabbards, the Yakuza leaders, Ulti and Page 1 will be able to pack him up or at least send him away. And then only 8% believes that he doesn't care about ancient weapons. One more thing as well. This may seem really random at first, But we gotta remember, Oda is the king of curveballs, and he could get really wacky if Blackbeard were to show up in Wano, because he could run into interference from Big Mom and Kaido. We don't know what's happening with them. Are they dead? Are they alive? We have no clue. Hell, one of the first theories that popped up after they were defeated was that they got sent down all the way to the ancient weapon because Luffy and Law knocked them into the volcano. So it's possible that Blackbeard breaks down the Wano walls, and then boom, Kaido and Big Mom pop out, and they are the unlikely saviors of Wano. They send Blackbeard away. That could happen. Or hell, maybe even Blackbeard kills him at that point because they are weakened. Who knows? Another oddball, curveball that Oda could throw at us in Wano would be Gecko Moria? Hey, he did do the Kozuki Moria reveal in the Yamato cover page story. We know that Gecko Moria wants revenge for Absalom, and he possibly wants revenge for being in prison for so long as well. So maybe he goes to Wano, his homeland, and that is where he fights Blackbeard. That's where the revenge match happens, where Gecko Moria gets whooped once more. Sad to say. You know, Gecko Moria, unless he locked in majorly hard while he was in prison, I just can't imagine him fighting the Blackbeard Pirates and winning. Maybe against one of the commanding officers, sure, but Blackbeard himself is just too much of a monster. Another group that could run interference in Wano would be Cross Guild. Last we saw, Buggy told Mihawk and Crocodile and all the group that he wants to go after the One Piece. He made fun of Crocodile and Mihawk even. He said, hey, didn't you guys once have dreams? Didn't you want to become Pirate King? Come on, let's do it. Buggy knows where the poneglyphs are. He knows that Zoe has one. He knows that there's one at Fishman Island. Well, it's not there anymore. He knows there's one at Wano. I would not be shocked if while Buggy's going after the Wano Road poneglyph, he runs into the Blackbeard Pirates, and maybe that is what stops Blackbeard from fully attacking Wano. Right? It's one thing to fight a whole nation. It's another thing if that nation has Crocodile on the other end, Mihawk on the other end, and Buggy, who, yeah, we don't really talk about him, right? So yeah, I think that would be pretty cool. And then of course that would make sense, right? Blackbeard sees Mihawk and he's like, oh god, I don't want to fight Mihawk right now. I'll just go ahead and get out of here. You know, Mihawk pulls a little Rayleigh moment. He just whips out the sword and then Blackbeard goes running. I think that would be pretty cool. Of course, that sounds like Mihawk headcanon, but it is what it is. And another thing with Cross Guild going to Wano is that Buggy does have good ties with the samurai. Because of his connections to Odin, Nekomamushi, and Inuarashi, I could totally see Buggy going there and playing the role of defender. Whether it's willingly or unwillingly, Buggy just keeps on falling upwards, so maybe it all works out in his favor. And you just gotta imagine how full circle this moment would be for Cross Guild. Dude, Crocodile. He spent decades trying to gain the public trust in Alabasta just to take over it to find Pluton, only to realize that Pluton isn't even there. But Pluton's in Wano. Maybe that's how Crocodile learns about Pluton. He goes there and he's like, oh, Blackbeard, what are you doing here? You already have the road poneglyphs. Why are you here again? And then Blackbeard's like, oh, Pluton's in this island. And then boom, Crocodile's eyes light up once again. And he's like, you said Pluton? Buggy, we gotta help Wano. Mihawk, we gotta help Wano. We need this weapon. That would be fire. That really would be fire. I think there's so many cool threads Oda could go with when it comes to Blackbeard running into interference in Wano. That would make sense, by the way. Like, all those options, yes, they seem crazy, but it's possible. You can't honestly say that they have a 0% chance of actually happening. So, on to the comment section just to see what people are saying right here. Also, for my answer, I do like the idea that he gets Pluton, but just because he could run into interference, I might vote no. I might actually vote no on that one. I think he'll try, but I think he'll be sent away. And then we'll get to the Shirahoshi question here in a minute. So, top comment says, no other reason for Caribou to tell Blackbeard about the weapons if Oda wasn't going to have him go after them. Yep, I think he has to try. Whether he wins or loses, I think Blackbeard will 100% try. Poseidon, Straw Hats, Pluton, Blackbeard, Uranus, World Government, the Noah Barbell. I think Noah could actually go to Loki. You know, if Loki does find the galley raw, dude, he could commandeer the Noah, man. Him and Shirahoshi, if she's Mosa, it could work out. with the Quake Fruit, he can 100% break down Wano's defense. The Awakened version. Dude, if Blackbeard awakens the Gura, that would be insane. Because we haven't seen Whitebeard with it awakened, right? So Blackbeard awakening that fruit, oh yeah. Oh yeah, that wall stands no chance. Pluton, Seraphim, Emu's ability, probably, hopefully not. Yeah, his crew is going to be insane. It depends on if it is off-screened or not. Yes, because Robin is secretly on his side, and that's why she never tells the others about this stuff. No, he didn't make a move towards Wano after the defeat of Kaido, and Shanks is waiting for him. I think that signals he's not going to Wano. I agree with this right here, right? During that time, yes, it made no sense for him to go to Wano. But now that he has information that there's an ancient weapon in Wano, and that Shanks is no longer there, I think it is very plausible to see him make a move towards Wano. This says, since Caribou is going to tell Blackbeard about Pluton, I assume he's probably going to go after it since he knows all the details. My understanding of acquiring Pluton is that 1, Wano needs to open, 2, it needs Zunisha's help, who won't move unless Momonosuke commands him to. Mixed feelings about Blackbeard jumping through those meticulous steps. If he does, wow, he's very broken. If he doesn't, okay, so he goes after Shirahoshi, sad face. Yeah, I think the Gura no Mi is a great option to, break the walls without Wano wanting to, without Zunisha, and without Momonosuke commanding them. And the thing is, too, is that he doesn't need to break all of Wano's walls, right? Because I'm assuming Zunisha was going to break everything. Blackbeard realistically just has to punch a hole in it. Blackbeard doesn't have to go around opening the borders. No. He just needs one really good hit, and then he's good. Question is, Quake Fruit, is it strong enough to open Wano? Blackbeard could honestly barter with that information just as much as he could utilize it himself. Oh, thinking he's going to go after them just because he knows about them doesn't sound like the smart, thought-out plan Blackbeard pulls off. Him knowing they exist in the world might actually be all he needs to pull off some other stuff with the world government. It depends. We know that Blackbeard survived for quite some time with his mom, with Eris. So there's a chance that maybe Eris and the Davy clan had some lore on the ancient weapons, and he knows how powerful they actually are. Because the ancient weapons, they literally are island-busting weapons. So I think anybody would want this weapon for themselves, especially Blackbeard, who wants to destroy the world or take over the world. I don't think it'd be insane. I could see him using the information to lure Crossguild there, and then maybe he takes it from Crossguild, or he backstabs him later. I think that would be pretty cool. But yeah, you're right though, Blackbeard usually plans things out. But with this sudden information, who knows what he'll do? So now, on to the second poll. Will Blackbeard capture Shirahoshi? Look at it right here. What's the result? 63% on Pluton, 61% for Shirahoshi. Okay. So people are just slightly less confident in this one. That's interesting. So as far as interference goes, Wano is at 29. This is at 27. Downside for Fishman Island is that I don't know who would stop him. Hey, sorry to all the 5 Fukaboshi fans out there in the world. I don't think Fukaboshi can stop Blackbeard. At least for the Scabbards, Momonosuke, and Yamato, you could make an argument, right? You could make some sort of argument. Fukaboshi, Momboshi, Nanboshi, Dodoboshi, like all those guys, like they're... I'm sorry, man. I don't think they'll be able to stop the Blackbeard Pirates. I have seen people saying that because, Fishman Island is underwater, the fishmen have the advantage? Sure. But I mean, Luffy was able to pull off so much while underwater too. I don't think that's a big detriment. I think it really just boils down to how strong the Sea Kings are. If the Sea Kings run interference, that could be a problem. But would the Sea Kings put Shirahoshi in danger to save her? I think that's a big thing to ask, right? Like if Blackbeard, for example, hypothetical, if Blackbeard had a knife to Shirahoshi's neck and the Sea Kings show up, what do? They can't exactly fight Blackbeard or, pick Blackbeard off her shoulder. I think they just have to go along with it. And, if Blackbeard gets really scummy and he gets, hostages, he kidnaps Fukaboshi and King Neptune, Shirahoshi might just go with them willingly, right? Because she wouldn't want Blackbeard to hurt her family. Shirahoshi usually takes things onto herself rather than putting it onto others. So she does seem like the type that would give in a hostage situation. So it's a tough one. I think I do lean towards Blackbeard getting her. Only downside is that Fishman Island is kind of far. But with the Elbaf time dilation theory still on the board, Blackbeard could theoretically do both of these by the time the Straw Hats leave Elbaf. We entered Elbaf with Caribou telling Blackbeard about the ancient weapons. We could leave Elbaf, and boom, 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 both of these plot points are already tackled because Elbaf time works differently. I think that could be an easy way for Oda to just speed run through all of this. So, going down here, this says, this will give Loki a reason to save his Mosa. Yeah, if you believe that the Shirahoshi is Mosa theory is true, then this could be it right here. This could be what Mosa was talking about, and this could put Loki on our side. Or hell, maybe this is where Loki meets Blackbeard, and he's like, hey, you look just like my idol Roxy Zebek. And then at that point, we really have to question what the hell's going to happen. Is he going to save Mosa? Is he going to work with Blackbeard? Is he just going to go his own route? We have no clue. This says, Caribou will probably tell him about Shirahoshi's power, but even without this information, Blackbeard always felt like he had his own plan. If an opportunity presented itself, he may try to capture her, but I don't think Shirahoshi is the main priority. Edit. I changed my mind. I had forgotten one element. The Elbaf tree time dilation. If time dilation is confirmed and time passed faster in the outside world than in Elbaf, that would give Blackbeard plenty of time to prepare a plan and use Carrie Devon's power to impersonate Saturn. I doubt a death was made public, and force Shirahoshi to come with them. No need to even fight. Oh, yeah. We still got to figure out how the whole Saturn impersonation thing is going to play out, right? We don't know what they're going to do with that. The main headcanon right now, the main theory, is that they will use it to control the Seraphim. Sure, that could be the case, but we don't know that yet, right? So they could simply go to any allied nation and say, hey, give us XYZ, and then what are you going to do? Unless Saturn's death was made public, you kind of have to comply. This comment says, or maybe Shirahoshi decides to work with Blackbeard voluntarily because Loki joins Blackbeard in the future. This is a couple of leaps. I could see a world where this could happen, but I don't know, man. Shirahoshi working with Blackbeard, I feel like she'd get bad vibes from him. I'm gonna be so honest. I do not think Shirahoshi would want to do it, but that's just me. This says, at first, I thought he wouldn't be able to capture her in so short of a notice, but I changed my mind. I forgot one element. Oh, you already commented that. This says, I think people really underestimate how much of a threat Shirahoshi is. She already made the mistake of going out the seas and got captured, but in Fishman Island, which is surrounded by deep oceans, she could legit take on Blackbeard and his entire crew by herself. Just have to pop the ship's coating and they're done for. She may have an army of sea monsters to do so, as long as she stays in Fishman Island, but Blackbeard has no chance. And I believe he's smart enough to know. And plus, what would he even gain? He can't steal that power like he does Devil Fruits. Then again, he did capture Pudding, despite her having even less of a chance of helping him, even if she could. Good luck forcing a schizophrenic nut job that grew up with the most sociopathic family in the verge to do what she doesn't want to do. Yeah, I mean, torture is a good way to do that, right? Just torture Pudding. You just beat her black and blue until she does what you want to do. As far as this goes, yes, if Shirahoshi knew that Blackbeard was on his way, she could call the Sea Kings to destroy the ship before they get there. But this could be like where Van Augur comes into play as well, right? With the warp fruit, who's to say he doesn't just warp the ship all the way down there or warp away? And then, of course, if we go the hostage route, I could see a world where Shirahoshi doesn't want to fight Blackbeard because he has leverage, because he could do X, Y, or Z. There are ways to make it to where Shirahoshi cannot fight back or else somebody would die. So yeah, I think there's ways around it, but I do like the perspective. This says, I think it's more likely to be he won't try than he won't be able to. Yeah, I mean, Blackbeard not caring about Poseidon. It's tough, it's tough. The thing with Poseidon as well, Shirahoshi, is that she doesn't have perfect control over her powers. So far, the Sea Kings have only showed up whenever she starts crying or screaming. So it's not like she can just point her finger and the Sea Kings go right away. She has to master her power still. So maybe she even masters it here. Maybe Blackbeard does show up and Shirahoshi masters her powers before Blackbeard gets a hostage or does anything nefarious and she sends him away. That would be interesting. So this one says, Logically, one Wake-Up Punch and Fishman Island is in grave danger. Oh, like from the Gura no Mi. Yeah, break the bubble. Yeah, like it goes back to the Wano walls, right? Like how strong is Blackbeard's Gura? Because, you know, Whitebeard had the body. Whitebeard was buffed to hell and back. Blackbeard, not so much, right? Yo, Blackbeard hasn't exactly been hitting arm day. So, is his Gura as strong as Whitebeard's? We'll see about that one. Almost likely. Mostly did say something was happening where they were. That might be where Blackbeard's crew is while Elbaf is going down. It would be funny if he captures her and Loki wants to save her. So he'll fight against the son of Xebec. And this one kind of says the same thing, right? Then we can see the biological son of Xebec versus the one who inherited Xebec's will. Yeah, Loki versus Blackbeard. That'd be fire, man. That would be fire. I like that. Yeah. Blackbeard takes Shirahoshi. Loki goes after her. And this could be where Luffy helps out as well, right? Maybe Luffy's like, hey, they also have my grandpa. They also have Pudding. And also, we know Shirahoshi. Yes, let's go fight Blackbeard, Loki. Loki, join the crew! Maybe that's it. You know, all of the interests are aligning against Blackbeard. This one says, did we ever find out if you can go backwards on the Grand Line? I thought it was just forward, towards Lodestar, or sideways. Is there another Subodhi? We don't know if there's another Subodhi. But as far as the whole going backwards on the Grand Line, you can go backwards. It's just that the log poses only point you forward. So if you want to go backwards, you need an internal pose, or you just have to eyeball it. At least to my knowledge. I could be wrong on that one. My favorite character, Blackbeard, has way more important things to do than worry about that mermaid. Okay, that mermaid is an ancient weapon, to be fair. You know, that mermaid was in the mural. That's a crazy way to put it. Can she literally hide in the ocean? She could. Granted, the ocean is pretty dark, which is why all the fishmen live in Fishman Island. It's not because, like, you know, they can't swim out on the ocean floor. They can. It's just that the ocean floor isn't exactly inhabitable. There are monsters that lurk. Deep sea volcanoes are also a thing. So yeah, she could hide in the whole ocean, technically, but I don't think anybody really wants to. You're forgetting Barbell will stop him. Blackbeard is going to shake the world, brother. He's going to capture Weepy Hoshi and get all the ancient weapons and find the One Piece before Luffy. Finding it before Luffy would be crazy. As far as getting Uranus, you know, Pluton, sure. You know, we could talk about Pluton, Shirahoshi. Uranus is a tough one because right now, we all believe that Emu has it, right? The weapon that destroyed Leloucia, high chance that that is Uranus. So Blackbeard taking that weapon for himself, that'd be kind of nuts. Wano is infinitely closer to Achinosa than Fishman Island. He's going after Pluton. He can go after both. You know, if Elbaf time dilation theory is true, he could go after every single one. And also, if he splits his crew up, like he's been known to do, he could also just send somebody else here, right? Maybe there's like certain Blackbeard pirates who specialize better underwater, or at least against fishmen, like maybe Vasco Shot, because he can set things on fire with his liquor fruit. You know, that could be pretty crazy. Ooh, Vasco Shot. Imagine the Fishman Island residents go after Blackbeard. He's sailing in the ocean. There's water all around him. Vasco Shot puts liquor in the ocean. He replaces all the water with alcohol. What do? This comment says, no, because of the logistical debit it takes to go to and from Fishman Island, even with the warp route. Yeah, you know, Van Augur can't simply warp them all the way down. Right now, his fruit still has limits because it's still relatively new. But, I mean, that's the thing, right? If you know an ancient weapon, one of 3 is down there. I think you try. And it goes back to the whole thing with Caribou learning all this info, right? Caribou has been such a strange character throughout the whole series. It's like, okay, Oda's bringing him here, he's bringing him there. Caribou had his own cover page adventure. It feels like we're finally getting the payoff of that. Right? He's going to Blackbeard telling about the ancient weapons. I can't imagine Blackbeard saying no to both. You know, saying no to one, I'm cool with, but saying no to both would be kind of crazy. So yeah, I think Pluton is more realistic because it's nearby. But hey, if you know an ancient weapon's there, if you know a world-ending monster is under the sea, and they're a teenage girl, you kidnap them. WG will get her. World government. Yeah, you know, world government is a pretty good option. It's one of those things where it's like, man, they should have taken her while she was at Marie Joie, but Emu didn't really show too much interest, surprisingly enough, right? Yeah, I mean, Emu had the pictures of Vivi, Shirahoshi, Blackbeard, Luffy, and yet no moves are really taken against Shirahoshi from Imu's perspective. Of course, Charlos tried to get her, but that's Charlos. He's just kind of doing things on a whim. But Imu himself didn't try to get Shirahoshi while she was in his backyard, front yard even. Kind of crazy. Narratively, with the way Blackbeard is written, I doubt he will. He has better chances getting the Pluton and Wano than risking the whole crew in one place due to drowning, since the Sea Kings would attack his ship. My boy Caribou will make sure of it, dude. Caribou round 2. Hey, yeah, Caribou, huh? Easily infiltrates Fishman Island. Yeah, you know, when it comes down to Shirahoshi, since she is a living weapon, it does boil down to how Blackbeard plays this out, because he can't simply just go down there and fight her. He would have to have leverage of some kind to where Shirahoshi doesn't summon the Sea Kings against him. And then, of course, you know, Blackbeard has to stay on top of his game. But then again, Blackbeard is a crafty guy, man. You know, I do not want to undersell Blackbeard. He has been a menace throughout the series, and the minute he starts plotting to get something, I think he'll get it. You know, Blackbeard is quite literally the off-screen king. But that is just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think about all these polls down below. I would love to hear all your thoughts and opinions. And of course, thank you guys so much for staying until the end of this freaking video. You guys take care, and I'll catch you later. Stay safe, brothers.